There once was a wealthy tourist who was looking for a guide to take him into a remote part of the Canadian wilderness. Pretty much everybody that he spoke to refused to take the job because they all said it was too dangerous. One guy, by the name of DeFago, he took the job because he was very hard up for money. So they set out in a canoe down the river, and when they got to their campsite, the hunter looked around and noticed that they were surrounded by snow for miles and miles and miles. Very remote. So they hunted for 3 days but found nothing. DeFago, being a talented outdoorsman, showed the wealthy tourist how to fish through the ice, and that's what they ate for lack of finding any real game. On the third night, a windstorm came in. Listening to the wind and trees whip back and forth, the hunter wanted to see it better. So he opened up the tent flap and was shocked by what he saw. There was no wind, and the trees were perfectly still. But he could hear the wind blowing as hard as ever. But the more he listened to it, the more it sounded like it was calling DeFago's name. This put DeFago into a panic, and he attempted to leave the tent, and the hunter grabbed him by the arm and said, "What are you doing? You can't leave me here." The wind picked up at that moment, and there was a huge rushing sound as something swept over the tent, almost lifting it up. Suddenly, DeFago broke loose and ran from the tent into the night. The hunter could hear him scream as he ran, "My feet! My feet are burning!" When his voice faded into the night, so did the wind. The next morning at first light, the hunter followed the footprints in the snow. But after a few feet, the strides became longer and longer until no human could have made that long stride without help. Suddenly, the footprints just disappeared in the middle of the frozen lake. According to Algonquin legend, the Wendigo is a supernatural creature that hunts and eats people in the northern forests of the US and Canada. But exact details vary depending on who you ask. Still, Algonquin tribes blamed unsolved disappearances on the Wendigo. The Wendigo has been described as so skinny that its bones push out skin that's ash gray. Its eyes glowed but were pushed back deep into its sockets. It sported large, sharp claws, long, yellowed fangs, and an insatiable appetite for human flesh. Disappearances in the area over the years have all been said to be victims of this monster. Stories of the creature go so far back that nobody can remember when they weren't told. According to legend, a Wendigo is created when a human resorts to cannibalism to survive. Long pig. Early settlers to the area took the story seriously. So seriously, in fact, that they made it part of the local culture enough for stories like the one I told you in the intro to be shared and passed down. Some stories are profoundly different in nature. These stories convey the Wendigo as nothing more than an ominous sign of something bad coming, usually a death in the town. In a town called Rosesu in northern Minnesota, from the late 1800s to the 1920s, a Wendigo allegedly appeared just before an unexpected death, and then, just like that, nobody saw it again.
And like that, he's gone.
One of the most famous Wendigo hunters was a Cree man most people just called Jack Fiddler, probably because they couldn't pronounce his real name. And I'm about to butcher it myself, probably, but here goes. In Oji Cree, it was Jawano Kizigo Gaba, which means he who stands in the southern sky. Or, in Swampy Cree, it was Mesna Withino, which means stylish man. Jack claimed to have defeated or killed 14 Wendigos in his lifetime. Some were supposedly sent by enemy shamans, and others were members of his own band that were possessed by the spirit of a Wendigo. Jack's own brother, Peter Flett, was killed after turning Wendigo when food ran out on an expedition. Most people knew about the legends, but just claimed it was mental illness. Regardless of those people's stance on it, several incidents are reported in the records of people turning Wendigo and eating people. Jack was arrested with his brother Joseph for the murder of Joseph's daughter-in-law. Despite only observing their people's customs and beliefs, they were convicted of murder and sentenced to death. During a walk outside, Jack escaped custody and hanged himself from a tree nearby. Numerous appeals saw the conviction overturned, but it came 3 days too late. Since I live in California, I don't have to worry about encountering this terrifying creature. They're mostly found in the forests of the Great Lakes region like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and the north central regions of Ontario, Canada. Just remember, If you're out camping and you hear noises outside your tent, or it sounds like the wind is calling your name, don't go outside because, my friend, I'm afraid you chose the wrong area to camp in. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, share. See you next time.